Hello YouTube and welcome back to another episode of X-Ray Tech, giving you an inside look at PC hardware. Today we take a look at the recently released GTX 1660 Ti, a mid-range graphics card that NVIDIA launched on the 22nd of February this year as part of the Turing family of graphics cards. This EVGA XC Black Edition card I picked up retails for around $280 new, but what sold me and got me to pick it up is that I found it in Amazon Warehouse, the Amazon open box return section, in like-new condition for a smooth $255. Warehouse deals are always a smart purchase because they're backed by Amazon's guarantee. You can find a link to Amazon's Warehouse store page on the channel's main page, along with some other useful PC part sources. It can be compared to its cousin, the RTX 2060, with the notable difference of missing ray tracing and tensor cores. Ray tracing being in the laughable state that it's in, this is fine, and if you don't know what ray tracing is, I suggest you do a little research into the RTX lineup and that whole fun debacle. Continuing to compare to the RTX 2060, it comes in at around $50 to $100 less, depending on where you get it, and probably most important for video editors and potential workstation users, it does come with NVIDIA's Turing encoder, which brings a 15% performance uplift to those workloads over its encoding predecessor, Volta. On paper, it also sports about 20% fewer CUDA cores, albeit at slightly higher clocks. Its TDP is also lower, coming in at a very tame 120 watts compared to the 2060's 160 watts. And just look at this thing. Its triple slot design is also another factor that drew me into it. The novelty of this short PCB having such a beefy cooler. I mean, I had to have it and I had to test it for you guys. The shroud has a surprisingly appealing plastic in black with a matte finish surrounded by a glossy finish. The card also requires a single 8-pin PCIe connector, and the power supply recommendation from NVIDIA comes in at a tame 450 watts. Here we see a comparison to an older cousin of the 1660 Ti, the EVGA GTX 1060 3GB. While similar in length to one another, this clip shows just how serious the newer card's cooler is and exactly why it sports a 3-slot design. In short, he chonk. Keep this in mind when considering the model, as it was not immediately visible on the store page that it was a triple slot design and will not fit all cases. Continuing with our comparison to the 1060, we see that in terms of video output utility, the 1660 Ti is not as well suited for multiple displays, featuring only one each of HDMI, DisplayPort, and DVI connectors, which is confusing when compared to the 1060's 3 DisplayPort interfaces. None of these limitations are going to affect our game testing today, however, because our Ryzen 7 1700 system is overclocked at 3.8 GHz, paired with 16 GB of 3000 MHz Corsair Vengeance DDR4 RAM, is all seated comfortably in the ATX-sized MSI X370 Gaming Plus, and our testing will, as always, be conducted at 1080p on a single monitor. Now, without any further fanfare, let's dive into the testing. Up first is the Unigine Heaven benchmark. With settings cranked to maximum, we see a return of 80 FPS and a score of 2026 points. This result shows that Heaven as a benchmark is finally starting to show its age a little bit if a mid-range modern card can pump out over 60 FPS at max. Released in September of 2018, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is an excellent installment to the series and an excellent installment to the channel as we bring its canned benchmark into the fold. We see a great performance here from the 1660 Ti as it pushes out an average of 76 FPS with a margin of just less than 100% of the load completely on the graphics card throughout testing. Rolling along, you'll find that Warhammer Vermintide 2 happily accepts the highest graphical settings possible with extreme grace and a return of 93 FPS and a 1% low value of 66, resulting in a gorgeous experience and buttery smooth gameplay. Speaking once again of beautiful games at maximum settings, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is up next, and we played this eye candy at max with a resulting average of 124 FPS with 1% low values at 85. This comes as no surprise since this game is wonderfully optimized to run well on a wide variety of hardware, as we have seen extensively in videos past. This cavalcade of well-optimized experiences continues with Overwatch played at ultra settings. This showed us figures of 113 average and 86 1% low FPS numbers for a perfectly competitive experience, even if I myself am not. Rest in peace, Orisa. Now that we're done mourning Orisa's death, we can move on to our last title, Apex Legends, yet another game at which I am doo-doo garbage but enjoy playing anyway. With VRAM-based texture allowance set to very high to utilize the maximum 6 GB of VRAM on board and all other settings cranked up to high, we got a rock-solid 125 FPS with a 1% low value of 84. In conclusion, I was mildly impressed with this card and what it offers. To call it mid-range is true in terms of where it sits in NVIDIA's Turing lineup, but this card performs at a level that is almost identical to the GTX 1070, and by extension as well, the GTX 980 Ti, and at the low end, the Vega 56, which is to say, it's a powerhouse at 1080p. Overall, it makes for a solid option if you don't trust used cards or aren't that comfortable with the used market in general. $255 in this specific case nets you a graphics card that can max out a healthy smattering of demanding AAA titles. If that isn't the case and you're open to the used market and what it offers, you will find a savings of $50 to $130 for the same level of performance by buying the cards I mentioned just now. Anyway guys, please tell me what you think of the video, the GTX 1660 Ti, and any other thoughts, questions, and concerns in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. This has been another episode of X-Ray Tech, giving you an inside look at PC hardware.